Now, today, the royal family put on a united front, with Prince Harry walking in procession alongside his brother, Prince William, and sitting behind his father, King Charles, in Westminster Abbey. But behind the scenes, the period of mourning truce between the Sussexes and the royal family might already be wavering. Buckingham Palace has furiously hit back at reports that Harry was told of the late Queen's death just 5 minutes before the public announcement. The Daily Telegraph reported last night that the Duke of Sussex was the, quote, last to know about his grandmother's passing, and found out an hour after Prime Minister Liz Truss. Palace aides were angered by the, quote, disrespectful claims made on the eve of Her late Majesty's funeral. A spokesman for the King strongly rebuked the story, stressing the public was only informed after every family member had been informed. The Telegraph later amended its story to reflect the fact that Harry was not treated differently to other members of the family. He was reportedly told of the late Queen's passing as soon as he became contactable upon landing at Aberdeen Airport. But arguments like this will do nothing to bridge the gap between the royal family and the Sussexes, especially as it comes after the couple were uninvited from last night's state reception of the century at Buckingham Palace. Well, to get his expert analysis, I'm joined now by the renowned biographer Tom Bower, who has most recently authored a tell-all book about Meghan Markle. Tom, despite their unity and grief, the gulf between Harry and Meghan and the royal family, I hate to say it, Tom, but I don't think it's ever been greater, has it?
Well, I agree with you, absolutely. I thought that the body language of Harry throughout the day told volumes. I thought, especially as he got into the car after the service at St. George's in Windsor, he looked really quite angry. And perhaps I'm wrong, but I didn't see him singing gustily God Save the King inside Westminster Abbey either. I mean, Meghan has got a sort of a pastiche, plastic Hollywood smile permanently on. But Harry, in my view, was not hiding his anger. And these stories, whether it's about hearing late about the Queen's death, which I doubt, and being stripped of the ER on his uniform, and not being invited to an occasion where really he shouldn't be there. He represents absolutely nobody. He would only be there with Meghan to sow danger and dissent. All come from him. And of course, this is typical Harry and Meghan. It's all about them. In the week that we're mourning the death of the Queen, all we get from Harry and Meghan is why about me? Woe, 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 me and me. It's going to be very bad. And I don't think that Charles has got much time to sort this out. Unlike Phil, I think that he's got to hit the buttons pretty quickly as the new king to sort out Harry and Meghan, to sort out Prince Andrew. Both of those men have got one major problem now, that with the Queen's departure, there is no one in court who's fighting for them. We've got to remember that the Queen purposely tried to include Harry in the Jubilee celebrations. She agreed to see them all when they were flying to Holland. There's nobody in the court now who wants to see Harry and Meghan. So they're going to leave Britain feeling pretty isolated.
And Tom, it just feels like it doesn't matter how many concessions King Charles and Prince William make to the Sussexes, they're never going to be happy. I mean, the briefing to the Sunday Times at the weekend suggested that Harry was actually so annoyed by this apparent slight over the military uniform, even though he wasn't even meant to be wearing military uniform in the first place, that they actually considered throwing a strop and wearing his morning suit. Now, he didn't in the end, but the most significant thing to me, Tom, is that you've got his side singing like a canary to a journalist in the middle of what is meant to be a mourning period focused on Queen Elizabeth II. So if they're doing that in the middle of the mourning period, it's going to get much worse, isn't it, as soon as they're back in Montecito?
Oh, absolutely. And I thought that the whole way in which the rest of the royal family treated Meghan and Harry today showed that they had very little sympathy towards them. And in return, Harry and Meghan looked as if they were quite angry that they weren't being treated with the respect they think they deserve. And I agree with you. They're going to go back to Montecito fuming. and the autobiography, will soon be dug out and released. I think what is interesting is, I would love to have known what Sophie Wessex said to Meghan as they drove in the limousine between Westminster and Westminster Hall and the church. Sophie Wessex is a plain-speaking woman. Did she tell Meghan exactly what they all thought of her? The idea that the body language between William and Harry showed reconciliation is, in my view, nonsense. How on earth can there be reconciliation when Harry and Meghan have said such terrible things about William and his wife? There's just no grounds for sympathy unless the two of them, the Sussexes, apologise. What I think will be telling is whether the king, the new king, makes their children prince and princess after all, whether he actually acknowledges their rights and titles, or whether he decides that he's going to cast them out. There's a lot for the king to do. He has now got to bring the court, his immediate royal family, into order. He's got to present the new monarchy. The old era is over. The new era now begins. There's no time to waste. He has now got to get to work to present the monarchy, the modern monarchy, the monarchy we all now have grown over the last week to love more than ever, to reassure us that it's going to be in good hands and we won't have to see Harry and Andrew parading in our streets ever again.
Tom, Meghan, someone who obviously you have spent the last couple of years reporting on, she was very emotional today at the service. Was she close to the Queen?
Well, was she emotional back then? I mean, when she allegedly touched a tear, or was it an act of a Hollywood actress thinking I better do a gesture to suggest a tear? The only person that Meghan, I think at the moment, is crying for is for herself. Certainly not for the Queen. After all, she had been pretty rude about her in the Oprah Winfrey interview. Whatever she might have said, the implication was pretty awful. Of course she wasn't close. And you remember from my book, I had this astonishing quote on the very morning of the Duke's of Edinburgh's funeral. The Queen said to a very close aide, "Thank goodness that Meghan's not coming." The Queen was a wonderful, wonderful agent of emollients, of trying to make good and settle arguments. But of course she had her passions. She could see through Meghan. She knew the damage that the Oprah Winfrey interview did. And she didn't want any grandstanding at Prince Philip's funeral. I thought Meghan today behaved properly. She didn't grandstand. She didn't try to attract attention. The sort of suggestion that she was wiping away a tear, I think it was just a scratch.
That is the renowned royal biographer Tom Bower, of course, the author of Revenge, the must-read bestseller about Meghan Markle. And Tom, thank you so much, and thank you for all of your contributions over what has been an incredible 12 days. We'll speak very soon. Tom Bower.